Hey guys, it's Packy with the house, and we have a good video from a two-hander who goes by the name X-Ray, and we're going to go over how to maintain ball speed throughout a 3-game league set instead of tailing off towards the end. So we hope you like our tips. Let's get into it. All right, so today we are here on the House Bowling Reviews yet again, and we have yet another two-hander. And this one, he said, you can call him X-Ray, as it says on the back of his shirt. And he's got a different style here than we usually see. You see, right away, he's pretty, and by pretty open, I mean he's almost all the way open where he's facing the opposite direction of the lane. And I'm actually not too opposed to this. It helps him, gives him that reminder that he needs to open his hips. As a two-hander, clearing your hips is one of the hardest parts, or it's one of, maybe not the hardest, but it's definitely one of the most important parts of the arm swing. You have to be able to clear your hips, which is why you see a lot of two-handers drift a little bit, but you see right here from the start, he has his hips wide open and they're facing. And even though he does close them, you see it could just be a mental reminder to him that he does need to open his hips. So I'm actually not opposed to this, but he said, he does have a little unconventional way of throwing the ball. He realizes that, but he just wants a couple extra tips on his speed. So that is going to be the main thing. He said, when he starts a league, he usually throws it around 16, and then by the end of the session, he's throwing it about 13 miles an hour, game 2, game 3 of league. So he wants to try and improve that and keep his speed up as the day goes on, especially as they hook more those last couple games of league. So we're going to talk about this, and we're going to give X-Ray some tips and hopefully help him out and help him throw it a little bit harder and not even throw it harder, but just maintain that speed. So one of the biggest things for me, he looks big, you look pretty strong. The one thing I would say, since you are so tall, one of the biggest things is using your legs, and you're kind of crunching yourself up on the approach when you use these super short steps because you're so far up. And by so far up, I mean, here's this, that close set of dots, and you're even in front of that, it looks like. I would suggest maybe just taking, a step back where we're looking, somewhere around here where your toes are lined up over here in between that first and second set of dots. If I had to take a guess, I would say you're over 6 feet tall, maybe even taller than that, by just the way your body looks and how you look compared to the guys next to you. So I would say definitely take a little bit of a step back. The second thing I would suggest would be using a little more pace. So you take these first 2 steps where you take a very short step. So, it's all about, when we talk about speed, it's all about using your legs, your footwork to help you with that ball. So when your feet and your ball match up together, you can throw it really hard. Especially with, you're a large guy, you have long legs, and it looks like you're pretty muscular. So I would say, a guy like you should definitely not have any problem throwing it hard. However, we do have some tips here to help you, almost maintain that speed toward the end of the night. So your first step is here. And I noticed, we talked about you don't have that much space. So this is one of the things I'm talking about. We go, left foot step, normal step, and then we got this slower step, which is fine. However, I would like to see you use it a little quicker so it doesn't really stop your body so much, but it's just a little smoother where you never lose too much momentum. And on top of that, you're so close to the lane right here when you're coming into this hop step that you're giving yourself almost no room to really slide or create momentum. So I think if you could just step a little further back, and then really with those last 3 steps, power into 1, 2, 3. If we could power into it, get a little more space. That way we can slide further and we can push off even harder into that last final slide step. I think that would help you throw it harder. The next thing I would say, and the video is a little blurry, so it's hard to see, but I would say try and keep your hand a little more behind the ball. So it looks like, you're in a pretty strong spot where your hand is decently behind the ball here, maybe even a little outside the ball. So what I'm talking is, when your hand is like that, you're not getting all of the force behind the ball. You're getting it a little outside of it. And it's hard to see, but, I can see the elbow here coming on the outside of that ball. And if we could get that elbow just a little closer to your body, I think you would have a much easier time continuing to throw it harder. And on top of that, your ball won't hook so much at the end of the league night if you can get that right elbow, almost touching your hip, closer to your hip as you come down through that downswing. So that would be my next tip to you. Try and keep your hand a little more behind it, and you will gain more power just naturally because you'll be giving, all of your muscle, all of that force to the back of that ball. So that would be tip number 2. Tip number 1 would be using a little more of the approach since you are so tall. The second tip would just be keeping your hand a little more behind it, where you can use that muscle and use it behind the ball instead of on the side. You're losing energy when you go on the side of the ball. So if you keep that elbow in, keep that hand a little more behind it, you're going to be able to power through and throw that ball a little harder. And then the very final tip, it's going to be all about spine tilt. So your spine is pretty bent over here, if you can see, and then you pop way up. And if we could find a middle ground where, your spine tilt might be, let's see if we can get this. If your spine tilt could be here, where it's not so bent over, but if your spine tilt could just be a little more bent over to start, and then maybe right here, if we could get our spine into, a little straighter position coming in where you're a little more up and down, and then maintain it instead of popping up. Because when you pop up, you lose power trying to hook the ball or trying to hit up on the ball, as we would say. You lose power trying to hook the ball, and you lose, and since you're using power to try and hook the ball, you're losing it behind, you're losing the power that you might have behind the ball to throw it harder or to throw it further down lane. So what I would say to you is, try and get that spine tilt to about, 45, 60 degrees is even okay, but you get it to 90 and then you pop it all the way up. So, if you need to get it to 60, 75 degrees where you're in here, or maybe even a little taller than that, and then you just maintain it throughout where you push your spine through the ball and you maintain that spine tilt instead of popping up on it. Because when you pop up on it, you're using muscle to hook the ball instead of to throw it harder. So if you could use that muscle to throw it harder and keep that spine tilt the same, I think that's when we're going to start seeing you, maybe you throw it 17 to start the night and you end up throwing it 16, or you start throwing it 18 to start the night and you end up throwing it 17. And that's another big thing that I want to talk to you about. So when you start the night throwing at 16 and you end up throwing at 13, since the cameras where it actually tracks your speed are right down here, we can, you can see them every other lane on the end caps. They're right here. They're these little black boxes. Since they're all the way down here at the back of the lane, it's going to be pretty accurate to start the night where it'll say you're throwing at 16, which I'm sure you are. And then, at the end of the night, you're still probably throwing it fast, but the lane has slowed your ball down. The amount of hook on the lane is making your ball even slower when it gets to that camera. So you might still be throwing at 14 or 15, but at the end of the night, because there's so much hook on the lane, it'll be saying you're throwing at 16 because the amount of hook on the lane has slowed your ball down before it's gotten to the pins. But even with this being said, I think over the course of the night, your speed should slow down maybe a mile an hour because of hook. And, with these new tips, with you using your legs by stepping a little further back and really gaining some more speed into those final 3 steps, I think that would help you a ton. And then maintaining that spine tilt, so you're kind of evening your body and you're using your spine and your legs the whole way. Instead of using your back to throw it, you're going to use more legs by maintaining that spine tilt. And then as well as that, that second tip that we gave you where you keep your hand behind the ball so you don't lose so much trying to hook it. And I think, those second 2 where you keep your hand behind the ball and you maintain your spine tilt, those are more, factors of you've gained those tips, or you've gained those tricks trying to hook the ball instead of, trying to throw it harder. So I think over time, if you really put in some hard work and some practice where you can maintain your spine tilt and then you can get your hand behind the ball, I think these 2 things will really help you throw it a little harder and will help you maintain that speed throughout the night. So thanks for sending in a video, X-Ray. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you hopefully, a month from now or 2 months from now, where you submit another video to us and we say, wow, you're throwing it way better, it's way harder, and it's easier to maintain that speed. So when we get that video, we'll be even more pumped than when we get this one, to help you out that first time. So thanks for sending it in. We appreciate helping you out, and we look forward to seeing you next time. So good luck and high scoring. All right, guys, so that was our video. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something along the way. And we hope X-Ray can take these tips to his league and hopefully improve upon that skill that he already has, because clearly he has a great game and a great starting place. And we'd love to see him improve and take these tips so he can improve his game to the next level. And as always, if you guys want a review from the House Bowling Reviews, you can go to bowling.upsport.io, or you can click the link in the description for a 50% off discount, and it'll send you straight to the link. We'll see you guys next time.